Hey, this is Henry Sanders back with another episode of Real Talk. We want to thank our sponsors at Park Bank. We also want to thank our investors and sponsors at Facebook Project for supporting us. And if you want more of this wonderful content, make sure you go to our YouTube page and see more of our wonderful interviews from all these wonderful people we've had over the last few weeks. Today I have literally a family member of mine, and we have been through so much together. And I know that a lot of people don't know this, but this man is this is the person I go to for who's the guru of my life. So when there needs something about change management, how to transition, how to figure things out, how to create all my creativity and to make it something real, this is a guy I go to, and I figured he would be the perfect person to bring in at this time, especially talking about reopening the economy, and he's traveled internationally to help companies with change management. So I thought he might give us some tips on what to do when you transition to this new world that we're in. How are you doing, Mr. Mark Webster?
Glad, Henry, that you think of me as a member of your family, because I think likewise. We've been through a lot together, some good times, some bad, but come out the other side.
Oh, absolutely, your family. There's no question. Mark Webster is, I'm telling you, people, this is the guy I go to. This is my secret I'm letting the whole world into right now.
You're outing me now, Henry, because I'm typically behind the scenes. If there's a merger or acquisition or political campaign, I'm often on it, but no one knows it.
That's right. And this is true. So Mark, one, tell a bit about your background. Some people know you from Tammy Baldwin's world, and then you worked for, who'd you work before, the Aspen? What was it?
Congressman Aspen. A number of members in the state legislature, too. And then and some really interesting characters, State Senator Roger Bresky, State Senator Marv Rochelle, and then these two members of Congress. I ran their congressional offices. But I decided to transition into kind of global strategic communication because I had the opportunity to live and work in Eastern Europe after the Berlin Wall fell. And in doing so, I got to help run campaigns from Romania to the Ukraine to Serbia, Slovakia, Hungary, Albania. And I realized the skill I really have is helping frame stories and frame change. And so I've been doing that now for the last 20 years.
And he stays on the airplane. I mean, this must be killing you right now, being at home. It must be killing you.
Well, first of all, my frequent flyer balance is not as hearty as it should be. And secondly, when you are used to a career that is on a plane, being home is hard, not just on your psyche and your waistline, it's hard on your relationship too.
Yes, well, you guys, you deserve each other. So this is, you deserve this time alone with
Thank you.
Okay, Mark, I'm serious about this. I think people need to know about, there's a big debate about reopening, not reopening, but the facts are it's happening, right? And so let's start with that sector. The economy is reopening. If you're a business owner, not just a business owner, but if you're a CEO of an organization, what are some of the things you should be thinking about in transition?
Well, it's really interesting. This time we've been in is really telling for organizations and how prepared they were. And not just financially and not just medically for this crisis, but how prepared they were for the purpose of what they do. Those who know what they do and why they exist and the value they add to their customers are coming through this stronger. They're having short-term problems. They're having financial problems. Sales are down. Things are happening. But big companies that know who they are and have a brand that they identify with are actually doing okay. It's those whose only purpose is sales, whose only purpose is profit. When you take those profits and those sales away, there's no there. Those who do better in crisis know who they are. And it's fascinating to me. And if you want, we can discuss some theories of change management, which I think are actually pretty interesting and are pretty informative to where we are today. My business card says change management, and I have two businesses. One is Mark Webster Communication, and that is a strict strategic communication firm. And the other is called MWVC Partners, and we do change management, both the head and the heart side of change. And the study of change management is about 50 years old. It started at Harvard with a guy named John Cotter, and it was very brain-oriented and science-oriented. And then consulting firms got a hold of this great research and made it into like management consulting. And a lot of change management led up to Y2K, and there's a lot of Y2K consulting. Many people then took change management and quit for a while and said, hey, we don't need this anymore. Those who understood culture and archetypal culture, how humans form, and why they act, how they act, took change management into a much more cultural space. And I think that's where this reopening and the challenges we've had with safer at home or quarantines have been cultural in nature. We have some people in this country, without judgment, I'm not judging them, don't think government has a role to tell them what to do. Whether it's a mask in a store or whether it's not convening with other people, they think it's not. And that is a very deep archetype in America from the cowboy who for years has said, don't fence me in.
Yeah, well, it's like it or not, it's sort of the American spirit too, right? I mean, so that American spirit of we can do what we want, we're going to go where we want, that conquering spirit. I mean, it's like it or not, it's part of what gets us where we are too. But okay, so I'm a company, and I've gone through COVID-19, and we're going through right now. I probably made some layoffs, had to make some layoffs. My sales are down. But I still have most of my sales force here, and I'm thinking about what do I do now? What are the steps I have to do to bring my team and to get ready for the new economy? What are some tips you would give me to say, yes, Henry, you're okay, you can do this?
Well, a couple of things. One is, as a leader, start understanding the situation you're in. There are 4 or 5 levels of situational leadership. Sometimes you have to mentor and coach and give real direct feedback, and sometimes you have to kind of sit back and let people learn. This is a time, I think, for a lot of direct, hands-on coaching from leaders because people are afraid. And there's a couple of theories I want to throw out there for you. And most people who have gone through a basic psychology course understand Maslow's hierarchy of need. And Abraham Maslow is a psychologist. And ironically enough, he got his PhD from the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he says at the basic level is basically just survival. It's like food, water. And as you move up the hierarchy of needs, you go to different levels. And at the top level is self-actualization. So in a powerful economy, when things are strong, most people are in the self-actualization stage. What's happening now is many people are way back to the survival stage. They're not sure if they can make their house payment. And there's parts of America who've been in that survival stage for a very long time and have learned to cope with it. And those people can do very well. There are certain people who have been in the actualization stage, thinking about their next trip on a first-class sleeper seat with their fancy luggage, thinking, I want to take some great posts for Instagram. Now, I'm often in that space. I now realize how fragile the world is, how fragile the economy is. So if you're talking to a CEO reopening a company, you have to start with the basic fundamentals of where are your customers right now and where is your workforce? Is your workforce through this crisis secure, and is your business sound, or are you still on uneven footing? And I tell people, when we come up with a change management plan, I don't just need to know what collateral you need. Like, I need a press release, I need a video, I need a speaking points. Let's figure out at the very beginning the current situation you're in, what the desired future state is, and then what is the story and message to get you there based on the strategy. So right now, we have a lot of clients who are struggling to figure out, is their client base still there? Is their customer still there? And are they ready to buy? And that is a scary place to be. I don't think we're going to reopen and have everything go back to normal. People are talking about the new normal. What I like to tell clients is, after 9/11, we know we were going to always lock the cockpit door. The cockpit door is closed forever. What is the new cockpit door? Is that masked the whole time for the rest of our lives? I don't think so. But there's going to be another cockpit door, and there are both pitfalls and opportunities to figuring out what that door is.
Yeah, that's interesting because you've said a lot there. So the one is about, I'm hearing you say culture. So a lot of it's about culture. How do you define your culture, and then how do you recognize what's going on outside externally in the culture around you in the economy, and how do you figure out what the market is and what the market's going to be, and then how do you get ahead of that, right? So a lot of times companies like 2 years out, 3 years out. They can't do that anymore, right? Because COVID-19 has changed so much. So would you suggest companies now look at like a 3-month, a 6-month window? Like how would you tell them?
I think it depends what kind of business they're in and what kind of supply chain they have. There's so much going on with this pandemic. And one of the big things is the supply chain. America has outsourced so much of its goods to so far away. So in an ideal state, a future post-COVID America has more locally sourced goods, with workers getting paid a higher salary, with consumers paying a higher price. So it evens out some of the economic inequities in our society. But you said about culture that what makes America so interesting and successful often is that cowboy and warrior. That cowboy and warrior wants the cheapest goods for the lowest price as quick as they can get it. I just took a survey online from a company who said, when you order your goods from us, do you want them 1-day guarantee or same-day guarantee? Same-day guarantee, just look at the supply chain challenges that requires products to be close to consumers or big clusters of consumers. So as people go back out, there's several factors. One is the consistency and reliability of their supply chain. 2 is, based on that Maslow hierarchy of needs, safety and security. Do people trust your product is clean, is free of any problems? And that is something we've not had to worry about in a long, long time in this culture.
So this is interesting to me because I was going to ask about it, because now safety has to be part of your protocol, part of your sales strategy, part of your recruitment strategy, recruit talent in. I mean, to sell your product. So safety has to be a big part of what you're doing, right? And if you're a company that's never had to think about those things or never had those costs, right? I mean, how would you suggest that company goes about that and think? Because if you're a small business, if you're a corporation, it's probably easier to incorporate some of those costs. Mm-hmm. But if you're a small business, most small businesses, they're just living like this thinly in line of profit. So, but they need these safety things to differentiate themselves in the market. What suggestions would you give them to do the safety thing, then promote it, to market themselves? People know that there's safety.
First and foremost, be authentic to who you are. If you have a small business and you treasure the home recipes that your grandma made and you have been giving them to making ribs for your customers or making homemade pies for your customers for 40 years, the core value here is love and respect and honor. So incorporate that cleanliness into that, because you probably have already done a pretty good job. Now you need to kind of, I hate to say it, certify to your customers and show them physically. A big thing in change management is the think, feel, or do. And people think, feel, or do differently by what they see. So you're going to have hand sanitizer out. You're going to have signs out. For the foreseeable future, you're going to have to signal to people that we get you, we hear you, we've responded, and it may have additional costs. I think what you're going to see in this economy is costs are going to rise and inflation is going to rise. First of all, you can't spend trillions of dollars on a tax cut a couple of years ago and a stimulus package this year and not have inflation and a downturn in the economy. Secondly, prices are going to have to rise. It's going to be more expensive to get the supplies you want, and you're right, Henry, we're adding new safety protocols to everything. As long as you message to customers, you're doing it because you love, protect, and value them, I think they're willing to pay for it.
Don't you think virtual, give you an example for 365, the virtual thing has not impacted us at all. Like we are already operating in a virtual world anyways. We have writers out and about. We're communicating. So for us, sincerely, this has not impacted us. I mean, we had to up our grade to make sure our virtual product was better and all those things. But as far as a team and culture, it didn't. It worked. It worked for us, right? And so the virtual reality now is, I think it's going to be part of the new economy too, right? Because now, now people are going to be mad I'm going to say this, but if I'm a corporation, I'm a CEO, and I've just found out I can lay off 20% of my workers, and I can still do virtual, I can do things with virtual and save costs and be more effective, I'm not going to hire back those 20% of those workers. I'm going to stay things virtual. So what do you do in that new virtual economy? Do you think there's an advantage to that, or do you think it's
well, there's
hurt us?
advantage for some businesses. There's advantages. My husband works for an electronic arts video game. They're, I'm sure, doing very well in this time. Your Madison 365, because you're a younger workforce, you were pretty virtual to start with. The transition has not been challenging. But anyone who manufactures anything, I mean, I think the classic example is the meatpacking facility. Not only is it dangerous work, it's work that has to be done in person. And there is no getting around that the majority of our economy is done in person. Yeah. And moving to a gig economy and moving to a virtual economy is okay for some businesses. And in fact, I would hate to be an investor in commercial real estate right now. However, we are going to have to gather again to work, to play, to live, to love, to relate. It's how we do that and how quickly we do it. One of the things that I thought was so fascinating about different parts of the United States when they went into lockdown, safer at home, secure in place, whatever they called it, was the culture of it. And I think Wisconsin in 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 100 years ago would have done this a lot better than it did it today. And we were one of the states that struggled the most. And I have to say it's a bit embarrassing to know that our struggle was so public, and it came in the midst of voting during a pandemic, and it came when this state has a spotlight on it as a swing state. And the class of cultures that's happening in the United States, the communal for the better good versus the individual and the cowboy, is happening right here from Green Bay to Mineral Point, and we're witnessing it here. And I don't think it's going to be settled here, but I do think this is the battleground for it.
It's interesting. So we're getting a little bit about change management, but you do know about marketing and branding, and you know this really well. So I've been talking to my friends, and it's funny you just saying that, because I had a debate just with my friend yesterday who sounded like a libertarian, right? Like he was sounding like, look, people, we need a herd immunity. People should just jump back in and jump right back in. And I'm giving them data. He's like, nah, people can work it out, and this is hurting the economy. But I'm saying to him, well, wait a minute. This is hurting the national brand of Wisconsin.
100%.
So Wisconsin right now, anytime Wisconsin in the news, is for something that seems, if you're in other parts of the country, it seems like we're out of touch. Sounds like we're backwards. One of my friends texted me today, and this is no disrespect to Mississippi. My dad's born from Mississippi. This is no disrespect to you at all, Mississippi. I've been in Mississippi again. My family's Mississippi. But he said, you guys are starting to sound like you got a Mississippi of the Midwest. And that's not a good thing. So how do you think that we deal with that in Wisconsin?
It's a brand.
We deal with that, because that impacts your corporation, that impacts your business, and how you recruit talent. So how do you think we deal with that?
You're 100% right, Henry. And the thing that is the challenge, you cannot be in northern Mississippi when you have high taxes and bad weather. The Mississippis of the world have challenges in and of themselves, but they have better weather and lower taxes. If you're going to have the socio-cultural, political environment of Mississippi, and you have the taxes of New Jersey or Illinois and the weather of Canada, that's a bad combination. Here's what the formula to fix it is. Wisconsin is a state from 1848, first state to abolish the death penalty. Wisconsin, the state that gave us kindergartens, the state that gave us the Social Security Administration, the state that gave us so much in progressive legislation. It wasn't Democrat or Republican, it was Wisconsin. And I think there has to be a nonpartisan. If it's D versus R, it looks like there's political gain for it. Now, one side is definitely taken advantage of this current situation, but the other side can't say it's all those conservatives are bad. Actually, there's a communal value in protecting this brand, and I always go back to the Green Bay Packers. I'm the only person in the history of the franchise to buy their share of the Packers from the country of Mongolia. And I tell people, I don't care if you're a D or an R, if you're straight or gay, you're a Catholic or you're Jewish or you're Muslim, you are a Packer fan if you're from Wisconsin. It's community owned. And that spirit of owning that we're not that far away from recapturing that, but it has to be nonpartisan. And I think your point, it's about the brand of the state, and that's about jobs, and that's about talent, and that's about the economy. I think Republicans buy into that because they care about the economy. They care about jobs. They need to care about the brand for the state as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't look good nationally. I can't tell this to people more. We just don't look nationally. Anytime we're in the national news, we look bad. So we have to do something about that brand. Okay, but before we go, Mark, just give me your prediction of the new economy and what the companies have to do today to stay afloat for the next couple of years. Like, give us your prediction and give us some tips for them before we go. Big questions.
Those are big questions. Mm-hmm. One size does not fit all. A small company that's family owned, that doesn't have debt and doesn't have shareholders, sometimes has bigger problems. Their margins are small. You said that, but they don't have to make huge profits in answer to shareholders. So customize your approach, but have one. Have some targets. Look at numbers you want to reach, profit margins you need to survive, and at your core, understand why you do what you do, and then go do it. And everything you do should ladder up to that purpose, because otherwise, customers can smell a mile away when you've said, well, now we're open again, I need to make money. Well, of course you need to make a profit, but you need to serve the purpose you're there for. And your value proposition to each customer is based on the deep connectivity you have to the product you have and the customer you serve.
That's great. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Webster. This is wonderful. We could have done this all day. I have more questions for you, but it'll take up more time. Maybe we bring you back. Can you come back?
I would, and I would love to talk about politics because, as you know, in 2016, I was saying I thought Donald Trump would win this state. And he would win this state because in the bar rooms and the VFW posts, I could hear some of those cultural attributes. It's a fascinating time we live in and a change management cultural moment for Democrats to win this state again, the things they have to do. I see some seeds of hope, and I see some warning signs. So I'd love to talk to you about that sometime.
Yeah, next, obviously, 365, we're nonpartisan. We don't take sides of that. So, but yeah, actually, that'd be an interesting conversation to have because Wisconsin's such a key state in the presidential race. It's a key.
You know what we could do, Henry? You know what we could do? We could have someone two sides of the aisle on, because I think some of these discussions, they're not about who wins or loses. It's how people win or lose.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, we should do that.
Well, thank you. Great talking to you. Say hi to Emily. Say hi to the kids.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you next time.